Listen, understand, act. Listen, understand, act. And now comes the clue. Really do it. Seriously do it. I think that's the best definition of customer centricity. Really do it. Put the customer at the heart of every decision.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Data Innovation Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Here in this podcast, you find fresh insights, expert voices, and the newest trends in data and AI. Today, we will be talking about customer centricity through data, a path how organizations can become or can get customer-centric. And for this topic, who better than Catherin Hiller? Catherin, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Anna, for having me here. Really pleased to come here.
This is a pleasure of mine. About the story behind Catherin and me, you will be listening to it in a few seconds. Before talking about the story, what joined us, I would ask Catherin, please introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Catherin. I'm a strategy manager. I work at the intersection of data, of marketing, and innovation.
Amazing.
Lovely combination of topics, I would say.
Yes.
And of course, with a very, very strong focus for customer centricity in everything I do. Yes, and I work at Funke. This is one of Germany's most biggest and most marvelous publishing companies.
Great. And this is, as I mentioned already, the connection between Catherin and me, as maybe a lot of you already know, or many of you already know. I was working at Funke for 12 years, and the last 3 years I had the privilege of working with Catherin together, learning a lot of her, from her. It was an amazing time, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the beautiful time we had together.
Thank you, Anna. I just can give all this feedback back, and I will never forget the moment we first met. I think this is also a sweet little data insight. I might also show that data people are always a bit crazy too. I think they, a tiny bit, maybe, just having some data fun. I will never forget the moment when Anna and I first met. It was in a meeting room in Essen, in our lovely new headquarters. Really nice. And I asked Anna as one of the, I think it was one of the opening questions, whether she had a favorite number or not. And I think anybody normal asked this question would have thought, woo, why is she asking such a weird question? And she said, oh, yes, I do. I love the 9. And I said, well, this is awesome. I love the 7. And from there, we started a deep data talk on our favorite numbers and why. So really good meeting that was. Really warm meeting right at the beginning. And it continued exactly like that, with very meaningful data and very, very meaningful cases we built together.
Yes, an amazing time. It was a great experience for me. Thank you again so much.
Yeah, thank you from me. I really enjoy it. I remember every minute of it.
And we had a lot of minutes together.
We had many, many minutes at also weird times. So not only weird questions, but also weird times. We had really good ideas on how to do things and how to change things. Of course, this was all very early in the process of data transformation, very early phase of working with behavioral data, what to do with it. I think the markets are much further these days, but it was a very, very interesting phase, trying out new things, developing real performance indicators, meaningful analysis, which really changed the markets.
Wow.
I loved it, Anna. I really loved it.
The same. As you see, I get a little bit emotional. I mean, it could be very, very modest, to be honest. I get very emotional because it was a lovely time. And yes, we developed a lot of things about round about customer centricity.
Yeah, exactly. Our big topic today, I would say.
What is our big topic today in this podcast? And today in the evening, we will have Catherin as a guest, as speaker in our data and AI meetup as well in Cologne. So, Catherin, let's start with the questions. As a customer experience expert, how would you define customer centricity and which role plays data in this process?
Oh, that is a very nice question, dear Anna. I think we can answer this question terribly complicated, but I love the simple way because I think the simple way gets things moving much faster. Lessons one learns over time. Simple definition of customer centricity. Listen to your customers, understand your customers, and act according to the understanding you have of your customers. And repeat. Listen, understand, act. Listen, understand, act. And now comes the clue. Really do it. Seriously do it. I think that's the best definition of customer centricity. Really do it. Put the customer at the heart of every decision. And I think alone with this statement, which company really does this? I think I don't need a hand to count them out loud here. Which company really seriously does this? Data becomes absolutely obvious in this process, but not as just figures, as numbers, as cold metrics trapped in some dashboard, but alive data, really representing the needs and the wishes of customers, enabling real understanding. And data is the key to deep understanding, to listening, to understanding, and to acting. Data and also AI. I think no podcast and no meeting without AI these days, or without speaking about AI. It's a great enabler. It just helps us to see things which would take us a very, very long time to see if we didn't have AI. Of course, we can't completely rely on it. I would never do so, but it's a big, big enabler. We used to build things which now AI can do. So it speeds things really up. And I don't see anything in the way of not being customer-centric these days. There are no excuses.
There are no excuses.
It used to be very complicated.
That's the point. There are no excuses. That's a very, very big, important point. And now, I mean, I would say in these days where everyone is trying to get AI-driven or data-driven, as you said, it's important to do it, not only talking about it, it's about doing it as well, and considering data and AI as enablers, as helpers. And having you here, I cannot avoid to ask you about one question a bit, related to your experience. You already have created co-founder, you are founder of companies, market research societies, and I think you can give us a very, let's say, subjective, but as well general point about the stage of development which organizations have now about customer centricity. What do you think?
I think the very, very good messages, everybody these days knows, or at least states, that customer centricity is massively important and a game changer. Of course, meanwhile, we have big companies really grown on customer centricity, really being enormously successful. So there is really no way of not saying customer centricity is not important. But there's also an unpleasant truth about the whole thing. While about 80% of all companies think they are very customer-centric, do you want to have a guess how many customers actually agree to that? Just on average.
9.
Oh, nearly. 8. really, but
Really?
yeah, really.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
I was just joking because of the
good
our
joke,
story.
good joke, very good joke. No, and there are different surveys who that get to slightly different figures, but however, the message is always the same. There's a perception delivery gap, and companies and customers or human beings are obviously not speaking the same language, so we have a real gap.
Yes, and this is really disappointing because, as you already mentioned, now the technology is so far allowing this. Now, when we talk about other companies which has started for a long time ago, putting in order the data and so on. I mean, there are companies and organizations which have been working on this, but customer centricity is really higher discipline. We know this, how complicated it is putting data together. To say, I know my customer, I have all the data I need.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many touch points that you can have. And even when we are talking about editorial area, you have so many points where the reader or the subscriber has touch points, reading articles, so many data. It is about the data, or what do you think, why it is this 8%?
Customer centricity is an operating system and not just one discipline. If it were just data, we would have to say we are so data rich and so tool rich these days, but we're incredibly relationship poor considering how data rich we are. And I always hope it's just a correlation and doesn't have a real connected meaning with each other. What's the problem? I think problem number one, or challenge number one, is the perspective, the market perspective. Many organizations always start with themselves and not with the customer. I think this is one of the massive turnarounds people need to do in their heads. Often the question is, how do I get more users into my shops? How can I sell more? But this is simply not the question. If you change the perspective and take on the customer-centric perspective, you should be asking, what's going on in the lives of people? What can I do as a company to play a role in these lives? How can I make life better, easier? How can I deliver a real benefit? Which need can I fulfill? And this is what data should be used for. This is the perspective we would need. But in most cases, it's a company-centric perspective and not a customer-centric perspective. And you have many companies stating that they're customer-centric, but it's not in the workflows. I think this is one of the key issues right at the beginning.
And this could also be related to the operation, as you said, operational system. And this is happening in the data world as well, only considering, without talking about customer centricity. In most of the data projects are not being developed, are not being included in the operation systems. Sometimes it is about just discovering knowledge, what is great, of course, if you have knowledge about even if you have knowledge about your customer, and you say, as you already mentioned, the needs that he has. But what do I do with this information, with this knowledge?
What do you do with this knowledge? And if you turn the process around, the customer and the data have to be part of the team right from the beginning. It can't just be a department. It has to be in the core team with full responsibility, also how it's translated into action.
Yes.
Which is often also not the case. I think the second, if you get to that point, which is challenging enough, but it's doable. Yes. The second point is the data infrastructure. We're speaking about relationships. Really, what you want to do with data is relationships, enable relationships with the customer. But if you look at the data systems, at the tools, they are not built for relationships. They're usually siloed, they're very company-centric, they're touch-point-centric. And what happens for the consumer is, in a newsletter you state, oh, I love Mediterranean food. So you actually tell the brand, the company, what you like. So there's one very simple need there. And the next day you visit the app and get Chinese food, for example. And you wonder, hey, are you listening to me? But of course, this is the problem of data infrastructure. It's all in different tools and it's not connected properly because the tools are not built for that. And you would need to build many layers to connect data in a way that it really enables building relationships with your customer. I think this is the second. Still, although we have customer data platforms and marketing automation tools, but still. And you can see it every day. You don't need to be a customer experience expert or a data expert. You can just be customer and you see it day by day. I have 5 examples per day where I share data with companies and I'm offered very, very strange things. And we were complaining about that 10 or 15 years ago. You know, this was when you just bought something and 5 minutes later you got a special offer for it. I thought, oh, thank you very much. That feels good. Can I return and buy again? Yeah, I think this is the second step, and also the type of data.
Yes. Yeah, maybe you can make a little bit more in detail which kind of data or which kind of or types of data are you meaning in this respect?
I always think, as a customer experience expert, I always think data 360 and around the customer. It's always customer-centric and not tool-centric. So basically, any kind of data evolving around the customer, any of interaction, of psychological data, structured, unstructured, whatever data, and from all touch points, whatever data needs to be connected to one customer. You need the 360 degrees view on your customer and not as a funnel. I think this is another problem in data systems, that you just work in funnels. But a customer is not. It's usually, a funnel is the wrong tool because it's usually a life cycle. And it's a lot of hello again and learning and coming back. And you want to enable relationships with your customer with the help of data that keeps your customer coming back as loyal, even if you have a little pause in between, which can happen in every good relationship. Even if you have a little pause in between, it's a cycle. And most teams and companies don't work in cycles. They just work in funnels. And I would never limit the data you need to just one source. I think the magic is in combining any kind of information you have to a certain use case. And use case means benefit for your customer. What can you do for your customer? What do you need to know? Which data types do you need to serve a true need of your customer? I think this is the question you have to answer. Before you do anything with data, answer this question and then see which data sources would you like to connect to your customer data tool.
Very interesting point, because sometimes people is starting from the data sources and then identifying the use cases or identifying the needs. But yes, thinking about customer and their needs, it is about connecting all referred data and not thinking about funnels. It's a good inspiration for me as well, because in subscription model, normally we are thinking in funnel, no? Reach, then as reach, then you have engagement, then you have the last one.
And you have a conversion and an upselling, exactly. Maybe a cross-selling.
Exactly.
But it's never really about the needs. It's always that is all very, very company-centric. This is how we organize companies. It's not how you interact in relationships with your customer.
Company-centric, tool-centric, different to customer-centric.
Absolutely.
That's right, yes.
I think the last big game changer one needs to get right is the attitude. And if you look at how many companies are managed, everybody says, yeah, customer centricity is super. Customer centricity is something you build long term. I always compare it to dating. Not even marrying at first sight. You know, this German TV series there's not even there it works, marrying at first sight. Why do we expect it of customers? So it's something you need to build. You need to start a relationship. You need to get to know each other. You need to gain trust in each other. And then you can move on. This takes a little while. It's not a fast process. It's something you cannot measure in short-term indicators and short-term data. But it influences how your short-term performance will be in a few years' time. You need to invest in long-term relationship and trust, and that is nothing that happens really fast. But if you get it right, then you benefit from it. You have better results, better metrics, better performance in everything if you get that right. But we need an attitudinal shift also in management, because many of us, many managers manage according to short-term metrics.
That's right.
And you prioritize them over the long-term ones, because the long-term ones are more difficult to measure, of course. Then not all managers stay forever, so you rather get it right for a few months. But if you want true customer centricity and a healthy company and healthy organic growth, you need to build in trust.
Amazing. How many knowledge you and experience you have, Catherin. I always, I am fascinating about exchanging with you and learning a lot. Yes, and I think we can take a lot of we have a lot of takeaways from this podcast with you, and maybe giving the companies as well a little bit of, let's say, challenging as well to think about if they are their community. Are you working tool-centric or are you working company-centric? How are your data put together? Are you thinking about customer-centric? Thank you so much for the great inspirations. And it is a pleasure. Yes, it has been a pleasure talking to you. We are very excited about your presentation today in the evening about customer centricity, a topic where I just enjoy talking to you, and it can be noticed as well that you are very passionate about this topic. Thank you so much, Catherin.
Thank you very much, everybody, for having me here. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, and dear community, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed a lot this podcast. And yes, tell us, interact with us, tell us which are your opinions about this. And stay tuned, stay fascinated about the data, and now fascinated about customer centricity.